Hello, friends. Welcome to one-on-one coaching, where we believe we not only have the right to control our lives, we deserve to create them. This is episode 2 of this journey. In this episode, I'm just going to briefly cover my first step in going from success to significance and going from failing and being depressed because I failed or got fired to be fired again several years later and be happy about it. One of the things that I had to do when I started the journey was to find out where to start, where to begin. And one of the things that helped me was the book, The 15 Invaluable Lows of Growth. And in that book, it takes you to through a process or a journey of self-awareness, of exploration and discovery of who you are, who you want to be, what do you want to do uh, when you grow up, has one way of saying it. But I started with a book. I started with a book, read a chapter, did the exercises at the end of each chapter, and it just kept going for about a year and a half. And in the process, I came up with this first step, which is not new. It's not something you haven't heard before. It's just simply the way I went through it. And I decided to go to the extreme. Since I failed before and I discovered a lot of things I was doing is because somebody else told me I should, or society expected me to, as part of the success journey, I decided I was going to challenge everything. And the first thing I did was think that everything that defined me was in a deck of cards. So I took all those cards, threw them on the table. They're on the chopping block, if you want to think about it. And I was only going to pick the ones that really mattered to me, that really felt in my soul as the representation of who I am and who I wanted to become. And I challenged 4 categories, where I thought of it in terms of 4 phases, 4 categories. And the first one was possessions, the second one was my physical appearance, my third was behaviors, and the fourth was my thinking. So in a way, I was saying, I am not the things I own, I am not what I look like, I am not how I behave, I am not what I think about. I was challenging those 4 phases, and I was simply going to say what really needs to be there. So why those 4? It's because that's just what was most common in terms of life. And going with the analogy of the deck of cards, there are 4 suits, so I guess I just came up with there should be 4 categories, but there probably are more than that. And the biggest thing to think about here is, if you think about all the titles, all the possessions you have, the friends you hang out with, the way you look, the form of your body, your physical body, what you think about, what and how you behave. If you were to say remove all of that stuff, and for a moment imagine and suppose you're a blank slate, would you still be you? That's really the exercise here. So think about labels. When I stopped taking actuarial exams, I quickly noticed that the peers that kept taking exams were promoted faster than I was. And I started thinking that I wasn't worth enough or as much as the other people, because I wasn't getting promoted, and that was because I wasn't taking any more exams. Therefore, my value is no longer applicable or no longer as high as my peers, which is totally false. And it felt real back then, but that's a totally false approach or claim. And the physical appearance it's just the concept of thinking because I'm fat, or because I'm skinny, or because I'm weird, or I have an odd nose or something like that, I'm not gonna be valuable to society. And think about this for a second. If you think of a person that for whatever reason has no limbs, or they lost an arm, is that person still that person? Well, of course they are, right? They could have gone to war and they were injured in action, and they had to be caught cut off. They had to cut off their legs. That person's still a person. If the person's not able to move, thinking about behaviors, if the person's not able to move and they can only speak and move their head, are they still a person? So that's kind of like the thinking I'm throwing here. It just start to think about how you're defining yourself when you're saying I am fill in the blanks. Is the fill in the blanks really a description of who you are? I am clumsy, or I am always late? Are those actually true? Are those actually real? I mean, those things could be behaviors. That was silly to do, but that doesn't mean you're silly. Uh, you were late, but that doesn't mean that you are a late a person, or a person that's always late. It just simply means that you were late at a specific time, but it doesn't necessarily define who you are. Now, we would like to define it that way. I mean, we love to do it, to see people externally and start making mm, judgment of what type of person you are, where should you be, how much value you should have, and all these other things. We like to do that, but it still doesn't define who you actually are. And the last one is what you think. I mean, if you, I tend to self judge myself a lot, and I would say things like I'm a perfectionist, and I think of myself as a bad person because I'm trying to be perfect, and I know for sure that's not real. And but my thinking somewhat drives my behavior, or my thinking kind of makes me believe that I'm a certain way when in reality I don't necessarily am, or I shouldn't be. When it comes to thinking, I think is in terms of I am the vessel that where the thoughts are happening, or I'm the radio that it's connecting to specific ideas and processing them. But the ideas don't necessarily define me, because I can choose, or at least I can pay attention to what I'm thinking and then focus on the things that I actually value most. So the whole concept of challenging everything really goes down to your possessions, your physical appearance, your behaviors, and your thoughts don't define you, or they are not you, unless you're intentionally seeking and intentionally choosing to do those things. Do the clothing that you wear represent who you are as a person, or are you wearing it because that's what's cool by society? Did you go to college for a specific degree because you truly wanted to explore that degree, or because somebody told you that that degree was a successful choice? Do you hang out with certain people because those truly make you feel energized, give you support, and feel in alignment with where you want to go and where you want to end in life? Or are you just doing it because you think that they can give you fame, or they can give you credit, or whatever you think value is to you when it comes to hanging out with people? So that's technically what I went through. I pretty much evaluated everything I thought was me and went on a quest to prove that it was or it wasn't. And whatever wasn't in alignment with who I truly felt I was, I started finding ways to remove it and replacing it with something else. So maybe the exercise here is sit down for a few minutes, make a list of all the things, thoughts, labels, behaviors, titles, people, um, habits, whatever it is that you use to define yourself, and evaluate every single one of them and prove to yourself that that truly is who you are, rather than those are things that you think you should say and you should think about because that's what other people say you should be. So that's my thinking for today. We'll see you on the next one. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully give you ideas as to how to proceed. And let me know. Let me know if it works out or not. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.